you for tuning in to another video of Tony Bell Sports. In today's video, we start our NFL 2021 season preview. I'm really excited. This is the best time of the year. I am so pumped up for the season. And of course, we're going to start out with our preview with the best team in the league, and that is the Buffalo Bills. So let's get started. I'm going to give you the outlook on the team, a little bit of a roster preview. I'm also going to go into position by position of how I think this team will fare this season, and how I think that the whole season will play out for the Buffalo Bills this year. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure to hit that notification button so that you can be updated when new videos are posted. We will be posting videos throughout the week, Monday through Friday, on all sports. So if you enjoy sports, you'll definitely enjoy this channel. Alright, so of course we're going to start off with this preview with the most valuable position on the football field, and that is the quarterback position. We know the Buffalo Bills are led by quarterback Josh Allen, who each season of his career has improved. And it's gotten to the point where he's showing what a lot of people believed he could be back in college. A very talented guy, very strong arm, very athletic, a guy that if he could just get the accuracy and the mental part of the game, he could really be an elite quarterback. And he was a very high boom or bust draft pick. And thank God for the Buffalo Bills, he was a boom and not a bust. And he has established himself as a top 5, top 10 at least quarterback in the NFL. And outside of Pat Mahomes, it'd be really hard to find another quarterback that you'd rather start your franchise with in the NFL. So I would definitely say Josh Allen is a great quarterback to have and will definitely lead the Buffalo Bills and is one of the premier elite quarterbacks in the NFL. As the backup, in case of injuries, one of the most valuable positions on an NFL team is the backup quarterback. And the Buffalo Bills have one of the best backup quarterbacks in the NFL with the addition of Mitchell Trubisky. Now, while he may be considered a bust in terms of a starting quarterback, as a backup, he is very, very adequate. He's got to be one of the better backup quarterbacks in the NFL. He's got great mobility, he's very smart, and always makes great decisions, and very rarely turns the ball over. So as a backup quarterback, you would want to have sort of a game manager, and because Josh Allen is athletic, it helps to have an athletic backup quarterback. So having Mitchell Trubisky as a backup quarterback is definitely an asset to the Bills. Now when we look at the running game, this is where a lot of teams and executives around the NFL think where the Bills can be weak. They do have some young guys at the running back position, so they do have potential to have this be a strength of their team. They do have Devin Singletary coming back. They do have Zach Moss coming back, who I do think are above average NFL backs. They may not be elite backs, but they do have potential. And I think the combination of that is sort of like a poor man's Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram from a couple years ago with the New Orleans Saints. Zach Moss is your power back, and Devin Singletary is your finesse catching back. Now, I believe that Zach Moss will be the better of the two, and I believe that he will have a better breakout year. But I believe that having the combination of those two with Matt Breida and maybe a potential with a high talent in Antonio Williams gives a kind of a deep running back core. It's deep, but not really top heavy. If one of those guys break out and they do become top heavy, we could be looking at a strength of the team. But we definitely need to see more improvement to warrant that out of Devin Singletary or Zach Moss. Then when we transition to the wide receiver position for the Buffalo Bills, this is definitely one of the strengths of the team. They're very, very deep at the wide receiver position. You have Stephon Diggs, who definitely showed that he was the better receiver in Minnesota over Adam Thielen, and moving to Buffalo proved that, and also proved that he is one of the premier top 5, if not top 3 receivers in the NFL. He is in that same class as a Julio Jones or a Davante Adams, and having Stephon Diggs on the Buffalo Bills was a great asset and definitely enhanced the improvement and helped Josh Allen along in his development. Next to Stephon Diggs is Cole Beasley, who will be in the slot. He's definitely one of the best slot receivers in the NFL. He's very shifty. He's what we call your yak receivers. Gets a lot of yards after the catch. He's very fast. He knows how to get in and out of his breaks. He's exactly what you would want in a slot receiver. The Buffalo Bills also brought in Emmanuel Sanders as a sort of replacement for John Brown. Now, I happen to think that this is an upgrade in some ways and also a downgrade in others. It's a downgrade because John Brown is a better deep threat than Emmanuel Sanders at this time. He's a little bit younger, he's faster, he's a better deep threat and better at stretching the defense. But on the flip side, Emmanuel Sanders is more versatile. He's a better route runner. He has more of a route tree. He can run more different routes. He doesn't just go deep, he can do slants. He can do it all. So I think because of his versatility, it makes him more of an upgrade for the Bills. Because with John Brown, you know he can only go deep. With Emmanuel Sanders, you really can catch the defense off guard because you really don't know what they're going to hit you with. After that, you got Gabrielle Davis, who I thought was one of the more underrated rookies in the NFL. He caught 7 touchdowns last year as a rookie, showed as a big physical receiver with a lot of talent and a lot of potential. And I believe in a couple years from now, he could be your second best receiver behind Stephon Diggs. Another guy you got on your wide receiver core is Isaiah Mckenzie. Now this guy does it all. You could give him handoffs, you could give him slants, he could go deep. He's one of our, if not our top return specialists since we lost Andre Roberts. So I love Isaiah Mckenzie. He's a gadget player that can kind of do it all. And he's more valuable than what people think. He may not be your best receiver. He may not be your best runner. But he is one of your best return specialists. And because he could do everything else at a B level, it makes him one of your more valuable players on your team. Behind that, we got the return of Isaiah Hodges, who I believed Isaiah Hodges would have been just as good as Gabrielle Davis last year as a rookie, but unfortunately Isaiah Hodges got hurt. So it's going to be great this season to finally see Isaiah Hodges show what he could do. Because coming out of college, I thought he was a better player than Gabrielle Davis. He's big, he's a great red zone guy. I can see him being our second or third best red zone target this year. And I can't wait to see him prove the NFL and the Buffalo Bills that he was warranted that draft pick and that he can be on the same level as the Gabrielle Davis, giving us a very, very deep receiving core of about 6 deep. Now when we look at the tight end position, this is definitely one of the worst positions on the Buffalo Bills. That's why the Buffalo Bills have been rumored to be seeking trades in for Zach Ertz. Now, I can't speculate on that because I'm not an insider, but if they do somehow get Zach Ertz, that will definitely transform this offense and possibly even put the Bills in position to be the best team in the league over Kansas City. But unfortunately, until that happens, the tight end position is going to be a position of weakness. Now, Dawson Knox definitely showed potential, and he is young. But unfortunately, I just think at the very best, he's an above average tight end. He'd be a great number 2 tight end if you had a double 2 tight end attack. But unfortunately, he is going to be our number 1 tight end. And you can't be great at every position, but he's an above average player. Behind him, you got the return of Tommy Sweeney, who's definitely one of the better blocking tight ends in the league. You really can't get much out of the receiving from Tommy Sweeney, but you're definitely going to get a lot from the blocking. And he's definitely going to help in terms of the running game because he will assist with the tackles and blocking. You brought in Jacob Hollister from the Seattle Seahawks. I think he's a great receiving tight end. Kind of, you don't have to put all the receiving woes on Dawson Knox. You can kind of get in Jacob Hollister to take some reps away from him. So that will probably be your 2 receiving tight ends with Sweeney as more of the blocking tight end. But that's definitely, if you added Zach Ertz, that becomes one of the deeper, better tight end groups. But as it stands now, it's definitely a position of weakness. Now when we look at the offensive line, Deion Dawkins and Darrell Williams are definitely great bookends to have as tackles. Now, while Deion Dawkins probably is a little overpaid, in the NFL you have to overpay for guys that play that left tackle position. It is so valuable and so hard to find those guys. So I do like the combination of Darrell Williams, the guy we brought in last year, had a great year for the Buffalo Bills, one of the best right tackles in football. Combination with Deion Dawkins, I think that's a great tackle tandem, and I believe that will definitely be the strength of the offensive line for the Bills. They did draft Spencer Brown, who I do think is a very good, talented, developmental tackle. Could possibly replace Darrell Williams next season since Darrell Williams is getting old and doesn't have the long-term contract with the Buffalo Bills, so I do like his talent. Then when we look at the guard position, we do see John Feliciano as definitely an above-average guard. Definitely not a Pro Bowler. You would like to have a little bit better play at that position, but he's adequate and he does get the job done. On the other side, this is definitely a spot of weakness. I do not like Cody Ford. I didn't like him when we drafted him a couple of seasons ago. I definitely think he's a bust, and I do not think he's a good starting guard. But unfortunately, we have to play him. I do like Ike Bottega better. I thought when he was in the offensive line group, I thought the offensive line worked a lot better with him than it did with Cody Ford. But most of the time, Cody Ford is in there. But we definitely need to get another guard in there because I do not like as a starting guard with the Buffalo Bills. So that's definitely a position of weakness. Now, we definitely look at on the interior. On the inside, we got Mitch Morris. What more is there to say? He's one of the premier centers in the league. Definitely a position of strength. So you look at him and your 2 tackles. Your center and your tackles are good. You just got to figure out the guard positions. Now when we transition on the other side of the ball, we start off with our defense and our pass rush. Now this was definitely the position where the Buffalo Bills wanted to address in the offseason, as so they spent most of their top draft picks on that position. Now that position group of the pass rushers for the Buffalo Bills will be led by Jerry Hughes. Felt like he's been with Buffalo for a long time now and been like that forever. But even at his age, he's still an adequate player. And a lot of people believe that we should trade him or get rid of his salary. But I believe that he's too good at a position that we're trying to fix. And I believe right now he'd be great to have for the young guys we brought in. And he's still a very good pass rusher. So I think having Jerry Hughes is definitely an asset to have on our team, even with his salary. On the other side, we have Mario Addison. We brought him last year. He's always going to get his sacks. He may not be great against the run, but he is great in the passing game. And he definitely disrupts the quarterback often. So I do like having Mario Addison in that rotation. Now, we brought in some guys. We brought in Gregory Russo, who I thought was the best possible thing that could happen for the Buffalo Bills. I thought Gregory Russo was a great addition to the Bills. He has so much potential, and at the beginning of the year, people said that he should have been a top 5, top 10 pick. Now, he opted out of the season, so that was kind of hard for him to build up any sort of draft stock. So I believe that's what factored into him falling in the draft. But that's good news for the Bills, because I can see Gregory Russo being our best pass rusher by the second year he's in the league. And I do see him making an impact as a rookie. We also drafted Carlos Bassem, who I believe may take a year or two to make that similar impact that I see Gregory Russo making. But I do believe he could also be a great rotational pass rusher to have. And you can never have enough pass rushers in the NFL. So I believe Russo has the potential to be a Pro Bowler. And I think Carlos Bassem has the potential to be an above-average starter to put into that pass rush rotation. You also have A.J. Espinetta from last season. I was very high on him coming out into the draft. He didn't play as good as I thought as a rookie, but I just think he needs time. And he doesn't really have much help at the pass rusher position last year. So I think having all those guys in there and having a second year with him in the weight room and learning the playbook and learning actually how to beat offensive linemen in the NFL and not just in college, I can see him having a breakout year this year and proving that he was worth that position that we drafted him a season ago. Then we also we brought in a great pass rusher, very under the radar, but I think we brought in a great pass rusher from Carolina, Effie Ogba. Now I believe Effie Ogba, I could be pronouncing his name wrong, but Effie Ogba had a great year in Carolina. And I believe that a lot of people ain't talking about him, but I wouldn't be surprised if he came rated and led our team in sacks. I believe that this guy is one of the best additions that the Buffalo Bills could have made. It was a position of weakness, and I think he's a guy that can come right in. He's already playing the NFL. He's already proved that he can get sacks. I think he's going to come right in and get at least 5 or more sacks on a team. And you add that with a bunch of other guys getting 5 to 6 sacks, and you do the math. If you get 5 to 6 guys getting 5 or more sacks, our pass rush is definitely going to be a lot better than it was last year. Then when we look in the interior of the defensive line, we finally bring back Star Lutule. I think that his loss last year because of the opt-out due to COVID definitely affected Ed Oliver. Ed Oliver had to face more double teams, and he was sort of exposed, and I also believe he didn't put in the work ethic as he did as a rookie. I believe Ed Oliver has a bounce back here with the addition of the return of Star Lutule. I believe that those two guys will shore up the run game and add more pass rush through the interior of the defensive line, and I believe that position will be fixed, which was definitely a position that wasn't that good for the Buffalo Bills last year. Will definitely be a much improved unit this year. Behind those guys, we do have Vernon Butler, who we brought in, who before his injuries was definitely a Pro Bowl level defensive tackle. Unfortunately, injuries hurt a lot of defensive ends, but I think that the Buffalo Bills will give him a chance to come back, and if he could even be half of what he used to be, he could definitely be an impact rotational defensive lineman for the Buffalo Bills. You can never have enough big bodies on that defensive line, and one of those guys is going to get hurt, so it's nice to have a couple of them. We also have Harrison Phillips, who's been on the team for a while now. I would like to see more out of Harrison Phillips. He just seems to be a good depth defensive lineman. You definitely don't want him in the starting rotation. He doesn't really make much of an impact when he's in there. I would like to see more out of him since he's been in the league long enough to where, he's not a young guy anymore. This is the time where he needs to break out and make an impact. And if I don't see him make an impact this year, it wouldn't surprise me if this would be his last year on the Buffalo Bills. But I do have faith in him. He does have a good body to play the position that he does. So I'm definitely curious to see how Harrison Phillips plays this year. Then when we look at the linebacker position, very, very strong at the top. We don't have much depth at the linebacker position outside of the main guys that we have. But the Buffalo Bills have 4 solid linebackers, which is led by Tremaine Edmonds, all-pro linebacker, definitely one of the best young football players in the National Football League. When the Buffalo Bills drafted him and Josh Allen, I had my concerns about Josh Allen, but I had no concerns about Tremaine Edmonds. He came right in as a 20-year-old and was above average linebacker, and by the time he was 21, he's a Pro Bowler. Now that he's about to be 23 years old, I think that this is the year where he shows the NFL that he's one of the premier top 5 inside linebackers in the NFL. He could rush the passer, he could cover the running backs, he could cover the tight ends, he could do it all. And I definitely think Tremaine Edmonds is one of the best inside linebackers in football. We are also able to have Matt Milano along with him. Matt Milano is definitely one of the better cover linebackers in the National Football League. So having that combination of Edmonds and Milano is a very good addition and asset for the Buffalo Bills. And I definitely like Matt Milano, and I definitely think he's underrated, and he's great with covering running backs, and he's great with covering tight ends. On top of that, we also have A.J. Klein. We see how well he played last year when we had our injuries at linebacker. He's a great player. He's been a great player his whole career. Just a lot of people and a lot of fans probably didn't know much about him. But now if you're a Buffalo Bills fan or a hardcore NFL fan, you definitely know who A.J. Klein is. And he's definitely a good, solid, better than above average, the next step above that, not Pro Bowler, but somewhere between that above average and Pro Bowl level linebacker. And he's definitely, he can cover, he can tackle, he could also rush the passer as well, sort of like a poor man's Matt Milano, not taking anything away from him, but he can sort of do the same things as Matt Milano, just not as good. We brought in Tyrell Adams, and I believe that not a lot of people are talking about that addition as well. But I believe the addition of Tyrell Adams could be a great addition for the Buffalo Bills, as he was one of the top tacklers, not only for the Houston Texans last year, but he was one of the top tacklers in the whole National Football League. He really knows how to stuff the run, which was definitely a spot of weakness for the Buffalo Bills, so I think he will help shore up stopping the running game, and I believe Tyrell Adams will be a surprising under-the-radar addition to the Buffalo Bills that not a lot of commentators or fans are talking about. We also have a good special teamer linebacker in Tyler Medikovic. He's definitely, you're not going to really see him do too much on the defensive side of the ball, but having those special teams ace are definitely really good. And if you notice, all the great teams in the NFL always have a good special teamer. You know, it's a third of the game. There's 3 phases of the game: offense, defense, and special teams. So you can't just ignore that special teams, because if you do, you're ignoring 33% of your entire football team. So you got to be clicking on all cylinders if you want to win a championship in this league. Now when we look at the cornerback position, this was a position I was hoping the Bills would address more in the offseason, but it looks like they have faith in the guys that they already have. They are led by Tre'Davious White, who's definitely one of the top 5 cornerbacks in the National Football League. Can't really say anything bad about him. Came right in the league at 22 years old and has been a premier corner ever since he's entered the National Football League. Next to him is Levi Wallace. I always thought Levi Wallace was the underrated corner coming out of the University of Alabama. And then when he went undrafted and the Buffalo Bills signed him, I had a feeling he was going to surprise some people. He will be now the number 2 corner on our team. And I believe that as the number 2 corner, he will show that he's definitely a shutdown corner. I believe he'll be just as good as Josh Norman was last year. I just think that he needs some more years development to become that solid number 2 corner. And I was glad that the Bills were able to keep him on the roster. And we may not be deep at corner, but I believe that those 2 corners, having Levi Wallace as your number 2 corner, is definitely not a negative. I believe it's actually a positive. And I believe he would show in the NFL this year that he's definitely one of the better number 2 corners in the NFL. At the slot corner, you got Tyron Johnson. He's been our slot corner for the last couple of years now. And Sean McDermott's great with developing and drafting corners. And I believe Tyron Johnson is another steal that he's found. And he's definitely an above average nickel corner. And I don't see any reason why you would want to upgrade that position. I believe that he's good enough to win a championship as your starting nickel corner. On your backup, we do have Dean Jackson, the guy we drafted last year out of Pittsburgh. I believe we'll see more of an impact out of him, since just in terms of the fact that you lost guys. So now just by automatic, he has to move up the depth chart. So just because of that, I believe he will show more development. I just think he needed a year in Sean McDermott's system. And in the second year, I could definitely see him be a good backup cornerback. And if you do have an injury for maybe a week or two, he could definitely step in. Now, I'd be a little worried if you have a long-term injury, if Wallace or Xavier White get hurt for any extended period of time. I wouldn't want Jackson playing 3-4 weeks, but he could definitely be an adequate corner for a week or two if you needed to. If you look at the safety position, definitely another position of strength led by Michael Hyde and Jordan Poyer. They've been probably one of, if not the best safety tandem in the National Football League since they arrived in Buffalo a few years ago, and I believe they will continue that for at least another couple seasons. Now, the problem with the safety position is outside those two guys, you really don't have much depth. But there's really no reason to be, because those two guys have been holding that position down for quite some time now in Buffalo. So as long as Jordan Poyer and Michael Hyde stay healthy, the Buffalo Bills will continue to be one of the best teams in the National Football League at the safety position. Just make sure that those guys don't get hurt, because the Buffalo Bills do lack depth outside of those two guys at that position. Now, when we look at the special teams, Tyler Bass, I think he's got a strong leg. I definitely think he's definitely an above-average kicker in the National Football League. So I think he's good enough to, if you need a kick in a big game, in a big moment, he can make that kick. So I'm not worried about that. I'm definitely worried about our punter. I think we have our average punter and Matt Hack. I think that could be a position that could be a weak spot for us. Punter is definitely a position a lot of people don't talk about, but it's very valuable in the NFL because that's what determines field position. And field position can mean everything, because that can be a difference of scoring 3 points to scoring 0, or scoring 7 to scoring 3. So you definitely would like to have a better punter on your team. Maybe he'll break out this year. He is a young guy, so we'll definitely see. You have Reid Ferguson, who's been a long snapper forever. A lot of people don't talk about long snappers, but he's definitely one of the premier guys at that position. And you have Isaiah Mckenzie as your return specialist. As I said earlier, he's a gadget player. He will be replacing Andre Roberts as our main return specialist, and I don't think that will be a position that we have to worry about. I think Mckenzie will make a big enough impact at the return game to help the Buffalo Bills. So now, as we've finished going over this roster, the way I see this season finishing out is I see the Buffalo Bills probably winning between 12 to 13 games. If I had to give them an exact record, I would say 12-5. I go on the low end because the NFL, there's a lot of upsets, a lot of surprises. So when you're doing your predictions, you want to stay on the low end when you go with win totals, because it's hard to win in the NFL, guys. It really, really is. So I'm going to say they're going to go 12-5. Definitely think they're going to win their division in the AFC East. I don't see any way the Miami Dolphins, the New England Patriots, or the New York Jets can stop the Buffalo Bills this year. And I believe that they will be the second best team in the AFC and probably go to the AFC championship game again against the Kansas City Chiefs. I still think the Kansas City Chiefs are the better team. So unfortunately, I see the Bills season finishing the same way as it did last year, losing to the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC championship game. But Kansas City is probably going to be the best team in the league and will probably win the Super Bowl this year. So coming second to the Kansas City Chiefs really ain't that much of a negative. They can surprise people. They can beat Kansas City. Anybody can beat anybody in the National Football League. But if I had to predict, I would say at this time, Kansas City is better. And I would pick Kansas City to beat the Bills in the AFC Championship game. The Buffalo Bills can figure out some way to add Zach Ertz. I definitely could see that assistant and possibly being the difference of them beating Kansas City or not. But at this time, I see them winning the division, get into the AFC Championship game, going 12-5, but unfortunately going home to the Kansas City Chiefs.